In 2015, Spotify wasn't just a company. It was a revolution. 200 million users, endless playlists, a promise that music would finally be free, accessible, and infinite. The green icon on your phone wasn't just an app, it was the future. But empires built on promises have a fatal flaw. They forget to ask, what happens when someone else makes a better one? This is the story of how Spotify lost the war it didn't know it was fighting, and how YouTube Music didn't just win. It rewrote the rules of the game entirely. By 2015, Spotify had done the impossible. It had convinced an entire generation to stop pirating music. People were paying to stream. Record labels were happy. Artists were. Well, they were there. And for a moment, it seemed like Spotify had cracked the code. But while Spotify celebrated its victory, something strange was happening on the other side of the internet. YouTube wasn't even trying to be a music platform. It was a video site, a place for cat videos, vlogs, and conspiracy theories. But buried beneath the chaos was something Spotify had overlooked: community. People didn't just listen to music on YouTube. They discovered it. They shared it. They remixed it, covered it, and made it their own. Every bedroom producer, every indie artist, every kid with a laptop and a dream, they all had a stage. No gatekeepers. No algorithms deciding who deserved to be heard. Spotify had the licenses, YouTube had the people. By 2020, the numbers told a story Spotify didn't want to hear. Half of the world's top streamed songs weren't being discovered on curated playlists or editorial picks. They were being found through YouTube's algorithm, raw, unfiltered, and impossibly powerful. Spotify had become a jukebox. YouTube had become a movement. But the real shift wasn't about users. It wasn't about numbers or charts or market share. It was about power, and who got to decide what the future of music would sound like. Between 2020 and 2022, the battle lines were drawn. Spotify made its move. Exclusivity. That was the weapon. Podcast. Joe Rogan. I generated playlists that promised to know you better than you knew yourself. Spotify wasn't just a music platform anymore, it was an ecosystem. A closed garden where everything was designed to keep you inside. YouTube took a different approach. It opened the gates wider. While Spotify bet on control, YouTube bet on chaos. It integrated short, bite-sized videos that turned songs into viral moments. It launched AI mixing tools that let users create custom versions of their favorite tracks. It added live concert streams, behind-the-scenes footage, and collaborative playlists that felt human. Spotify's AI playlists were brilliant, mathematically perfect, but they were also cold, clinical. Every song felt like it had been chosen by a machine that didn't understand why music mattered. YouTube's algorithm was messy, unpredictable, but it felt alive. It surfaced songs you didn't know you needed. It connected you to artists you'd never heard of. It made you feel like you were part of something bigger than just a playlist, and slowly, quietly, the tide began to turn. Spotify had the technology. YouTube had the soul. But what happened next revealed something darker. Something neither platform wanted to admit. Because the war wasn't just about who had more songs, or better features, or smarter algorithms. The war was about trust, and Spotify was about to lose it. 2023 was the year the mask came off. It started with a whisper. A few investigative journalists digging into something strange. Spotify's streaming numbers didn't add up. Songs were being played millions of times, but no one seemed to know who the artists were. And then the truth came out. Ghost artists, fake musicians, fake names, fake songs, real profit. Spotify had been quietly filling its playlist with tracks created by anonymous producers. Music designed to sound just generic enough to blend in, just good enough to keep you listening, and cheap enough to maximize profit. No royalties to real artists, no messy contracts, just algorithmic filler disguised as discovery. When the story broke, the internet exploded. Artists felt betrayed, fans felt manipulated, and Spotify's carefully crafted image as the champion of musicians shattered overnight. YouTube saw the opening, and it didn't hesitate. In late 2023, YouTube launched its Creator Music program, a system that gave artists direct payment every time their song was used in a short, a video, a remix, no middlemen, no shadowy algorithms, just transparent, trackable revenue. Spotify couldn't replicate it. Its entire business model was built on obscuring how money flowed. YouTube's model was built on showing it. The message was clear. Spotify cared about profit. YouTube cared about creators. And then came 2024. The year Spotify's empire didn't just crack, it shattered. It was announced in the summer. A single policy change. Quiet, corporate, efficient, starting immediately. Spotify would no longer pay royalties to any track that didn't reach 1,000 streams on paper. It sounded reasonable. A way to cut down on noise, to focus on real artists. In reality, it was a massacre. 87% of all tracks uploaded to Spotify were cut off overnight. Millions of indie musicians, bedroom producers, experimental artists gone. No income, no visibility, no future. The backlash was instant. Artists flooded social media with screenshots of their earnings. Pennies, nothing. Years of work erased by a spreadsheet. And while Spotify doubled down, YouTube did the opposite. It rolled out monetization for every creator. No minimum threshold, no arbitrary cutoff. If you made something, you could earn from it. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Spotify looked cold, greedy, corporate. YouTube looked generous, democratic, human. And the internet's loyalty flipped. But the real damage wasn't financial, it was cultural. Because the moment Spotify stopped caring about artists, fans stopped caring about Spotify. By late 2024, the exodus had begun. Massive Attack pulled their catalog, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard followed. Independent labels started cutting ties. Not because of money though, that was part of it, but because of respect. Spotify had stopped feeling like a partner. It felt like a machine that saw artists as data points, as content to be optimized, as replaceable. YouTube, for all its flaws, still felt like a platform where creators mattered. And the numbers proved it. In December 2024, YouTube Music hit 100 million paid subscribers, a milestone Spotify had taken years to reach. But YouTube did it differently. It didn't lock content behind paywalls. It didn't force exclusivity. It just worked. Every music video became a discovery engine. Every live session became a viral moment. Every comment section became a community. Spotify's algorithms buried musicians. YouTube's algorithms turned them into stars. And as 2025 began, something became undeniable. Spotify's biggest competitor wasn't just stealing its users. It was rewriting the definition of music itself. Music wasn't just sound anymore. It couldn't be. By 2025, the way people experience music had changed. A song wasn't just something you listened to while commuting or working out. It was something you watched, something you interacted with, something you created alongside. YouTube understood this. Spotify didn't. YouTube's AI-driven video remixes let fans reimagine their favorite tracks. Interactive shorts turned passive listeners into active participants. Live session integrations made concerts accessible to everyone, everywhere. Music became visual. And Spotify had nothing to offer. It tried. God, it tried. Clips launched, a feature that let you share 30-second snippets of songs. AI DJ arrived, a robotic voice that tried to mimic human curation. But it all felt desperate, like a company chasing a trend it had ignored for too long. Spotify had revolutionized how we listen, but it had forgotten that music was never just about the ears. It was about the eyes, the heart, the soul. And as the war raged on, one final truth emerged, a truth that would decide who wins the next decade. Here's what most people miss. The battle between Spotify and YouTube isn't really about music. It's about control of culture, control of discovery, control of what it means to be an artist in the digital age. Spotify bet everything on algorithms, on data, on the idea that music could be reduced to patterns, preferences, and probabilities. YouTube bet on creators, on chaos, on the idea that music is messy, unpredictable, and deeply, undeniably human. And in the end, the question isn't who wins. It's who gets to define what music means. Because when art becomes data, and discovery becomes code, something precious gets lost. Not just Spotify's market share, not just YouTube's dominance, but our connection to the one thing that's always been ours, human sound. The sound of a kid in their bedroom recording their first track. The sound of a grandmother singing a lullaby. The sound of a protest chant, a love song, a scream into the void. Music was never supposed to be optimized. It was supposed to be felt. And maybe that's why Spotify is losing. Not because it didn't have the technology, not because it didn't have the money, but because it forgot that music was never meant to be tamed.